Every major currency in history has eventually been destroyed by the institution that created it. Not by war, not by invasion, by the central bank itself. You've been told that central banks print money to stimulate growth, fight deflation, or respond to crisis. That inflation is a side effect, a regrettable but necessary cost of recovery. This is the polite explanation. It is also incomplete. To understand what central banks actually do, you have to go back to 1694. The Bank of England was not created to serve the public. It was created to fund a war. King William III needed money immediately. He couldn't raise taxes fast enough. So a group of financiers made him an offer. We'll lend you over £1 million, and in exchange you'll give us a charter to issue currency backed by that debt. The mechanics were simple. The bank lent money the government didn't have. The government promised to pay it back with interest. The bank then issued notes based on that promise and circulated them as money. The currency was not backed by gold in any meaningful sense. It was backed by the government's ability to tax future generations. This is the blueprint. Debt becomes money. Money becomes debt. The system requires both to grow forever. Now look at what happens next. The same structure appears in France with John Law's Mississippi Scheme in 1716. It appears in Weimar Germany in 1923, in Zimbabwe in 2008, in Venezuela in 2016. Different governments, different decades, same outcome. They all begin the same way. A crisis that justifies emergency powers. A need for liquidity, a suspension of convertibility, and then, slowly, the currency becomes a political tool rather than a neutral measure. The United States left the gold standard fully in 1971. Since then, the Federal Reserve's balance sheet has expanded from under $100 billion to nearly $9 trillion at its peak. The money supply has grown faster than the economy, faster than productivity, faster than population, not by accident, by design. This is not about incompetence, it's about incentives. A central bank's mandate is to maintain price stability and full employment, but it is also the lender of last resort to the government. When the government runs deficits, someone has to buy the bonds. When private buyers hesitate, the central bank steps in. It creates reserves. It purchases debt. It calls this monetary policy. But functionally, it is monetization. The government spends and the central bank prints. The loop closes. This creates a feedback system. Politicians prefer spending to taxing. Taxing is visible. Printing is abstract. Inflation arrives later, diffused across the entire economy, hard to trace to a single decision. By the time the public feels it, the policies are years old and the officials are different. Accountability dissolves in time, so the incentive remains. Spend now, print quietly, let inflation distribute the cost across everyone who holds the currency. The deeper implication is not economic, it's structural. Money is supposed to be a neutral technology, a measuring stick, a store of value across time. But when the institution that issues it is also the institution that finances the state, money becomes an instrument of policy. It becomes political. And once that happens, its neutrality is gone. Savings lose meaning. Contracts lose predictability. Trust erodes, not in a single crash, but in a slow leak across decades. You are living through this now, not in hyperinflation, not in collapse, but in the steady, compounding realization that the money you earn today will not buy what it bought 10 years ago. That wages lag prices, that asset inflation rewards those who own and punishes those who save. That the system is not broken, it is working exactly as designed. The real reason central banks print money is not to help the economy, it is to help the government. The economy is the justification, the government is the client, and you are the one holding the currency when the bill comes due. This is not a conspiracy, it is simply how the system works when the printer and the borrower are the same entity, when the feedback loop has no external break, when the political cost of austerity is always higher than the delayed cost of inflation. History does not repeat, but the incentives do. Think about who benefits when money loses value slowly. Think about who loses, and then ask yourself what kind of system requires constant expansion just to avoid collapse. The answer is already in your wallet.